Okay. So as I approach my vehicle, I'm checking the ground for puddles, any leaks, any exposed wires or hoses at the bottom of the engine. I want to make sure my vehicle is level, it's not leaning, which could indicate a low tire pressure or a bad suspension or a shifted load. I'm inspecting my headlights. They should be clean, not cracked, and working properly. Turn signals should both be amber in color. They should be clean, not cracked, working properly. My four-way flashers as well. I would also inspect my high beams, make sure the high beams are working at all times. My clearance lights on top of the truck, they're amber in color, the lenses are clean, they're not cracked, and they're working properly. I'll now go to the engine compartment. I'll start with the passenger side. I'll inspect my coolant reservoir. It should be securely mounted to the vehicle. There's no cracks, there's no leaks. The cap is secure and tight, and it's full. There's hoses. I would inspect the hoses. No cuts, no chafing, no leaks, and the hoses are securely fastened at both ends. I would inspect my alternator. Again, it is also securely mounted. It's not cracked. There are no illegal welds. It is a belt-driven alternator. The belts should have no cuts, cracks, or frays, and there should be no more than 3/4 inches between the center of the pulleys. Also, the electrical wires on the alternator, no cuts, no chafing, and no exposed wires. I would inspect my water pump, which is located directly behind the fan. I'm checking it for cracks, any leaks, any illegal welds. This is also belt driven, and I would inspect the belt the same way I inspected the alternator belt. No cuts, frays, and no more than 3/4 inches of play. I would also inspect my oil level. The oil level should be full. There should be no water or metal shavings in the oil. I'll inspect the exhaust system here at the turbo. The exhaust, no cracks, no leaks, no signs of any black soot, no illegal welds on the exhaust system. The frame from bumper to bumper should not be bent, no cracks, no illegal welds, and no unauthorized holes other than the manufacturer. I'll inspect my spring mounts. I have a front and rear spring mount, securely mounted to the frame, not cracked, not bent, no illegal welds. The leaf springs, all present, none shifted, none missing, none broken, no illegal welds, none bent. U-bolts securely mounted around the leaf springs, not bent, not cracked. My shock absorber is securely mounted at both ends. It's not bent, it's not cracked, and it's not leaking. My brake hoses. I'll start with my brake hose. No cuts, no chafing, no leaks, securely mounted at both ends. ABS line, no cuts, no chafing, no exposed wires. I'll go down to the brake chamber. Brake chamber is not dented, it's not cracked, it's not leaking. There are no illegal welds. The clamp is secure and tight. Okay, the push rod on this front brake is not bent, it's not cracked, and there's no more than 1 inch of play on the push rod when the brake's applied. This is my slack adjuster. Slack adjuster is not bent, it's not cracked, and it's secured with its clevis assembly, its cotter pin. This brake here has dust covers. In order to inspect the drums, I would remove the dust covers, inspect the drums for grease, any cracks, any signs of bluing, which would indicate overheating. The brake linings, minimum of 1/4 inch thickness, no grease and no cracks on the linings. Okay. Tires, ICD, inflation. The inflation should meet the manufacturer specs. On this tire, I believe it's 130 PSI. I would inspect the inflation with a tire gauge at the valve stem, and the valve stem is not cracked or leaking. The condition of the tire is wearing evenly. There's no abrasions, bubbles, or cuts on the sidewalls. And the tread depth is a minimum of 4/32 tread depth. It must be original tires, no recaps. I have a nice tight bead between my rim and my tire. Any separation here would be a flat tire. The rim is not bent, it's not cracked, there are no illegal welds. All my lug nuts are present, no signs of rusty or shiny trails around the lug nut, which would indicate a loose lug nut. My hub oil seal is not cracked, it's not leaking, there are no illegal welds. It's got a sight glass, so it should always be full, and the rubber seal should be secure. Now I'll come to the other side and finish the engine compartment. Now on this side over here, I'm going to go ahead and start with my air compressor. The air compressor here is gear driven on this vehicle. There's no cracks, there's no leaks, no illegal welds. I also have multiple hoses going into the compressor. There's no cuts, no chafing, no leaks on my hoses, and they're securely fastened at both ends. Okay, this is a power steering, gear-driven power steering system. I would inspect my steering gearbox. Again, it should be securely mounted to the frame, no cracks, no leaks, and no illegal welds. The power steering reservoir is securely mounted, it's full, there's no cracks, no leaks. The cap is secure and tight. Again, my hoses going into the power steering gearbox, no cuts, no chafing, no leaks, and secure at both ends. Okay, so now my suspension system, oh, my bad. My steering linkage. My steering linkage consists of the pitman arm, the drag link, and my steering arm. No cracks, it's not bent, there are no illegal welds in any way, and it's well greased at the pivot points. It's secured with its castle nut and cotter pin. Okay, and then my tie rod, which goes all the way across from axle to axle, my tie rod is not cracked, it's not bent in any way. My suspension, my brakes, my rims and tires, and lug nuts on the driver's side, I would inspect the same way I did on the passenger side.